Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 has arrived, and after watching the film, I think it's a cinematic masterpiece. While the first part was incredible and got me so excited to see the future of the Dune universe on the big screen, Part 2 has exceeded my expectations and delivered one of the best science fiction films of the decade. It's epic on a new scale, moving as every great blockbuster should be, and rich with detail in every gorgeous frame. Like Oppenheimer last year, I think it's one of those films that will define the next 10 years of event filmmaking, and in terms of delivering as a second part, I think it's up there with some of the great blockbuster sequels of all time, alongside The Empire Strikes Back, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and The Dark Knight. So in this video, I'm going to be listing the reasons why I think the film is a masterpiece and a movie that elevates what we saw in the first installment. This video essay will also contain brief spoilers, so if you do happen to be someone who hasn't seen the film yet, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it, or you could check out my spoiler-free review which I posted the other day. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on all of my Dune Part 2 videos coming over the next few weeks, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into my video essay on why I believe Dune Part 2 is a cinematic masterpiece. Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 is full of numerous balancing acts teetering between grand set pieces and intense hand-to-hand combat sequences on screen. Amidst the familiar hero myths typical of blockbuster narratives and the deeper exploration of the perils associated with power and violence, a remarkable equilibrium is achieved by director Denis Villeneuve. In my opinion, his interpretation of the Dune storyline elevates the material to unprecedented levels on the silver screen and delivers on mostly everything that was set up previously. In Dune Part 2, the story seamlessly continues from where the first installment left off. The Fremen are in the process of travelling back home after Yamas's death at the hands of Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides. Following the devastating attack on House Atreides, Paul made the decision to join the Fremen, much to the dismay of his mother, Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson. Believing that both Paul and Jessica have succumbed to the desert's influence and become consumed by violence, House Harkonnen intensifies its assault on the Fremen, and this leads to several meticulously choreographed battles between the two, with the latter often emerging from the sand to engage in warfare. The spectacle is both awe-inspiring and tragic, as ships explode in flames and bodies plummet from the sky, evoking a sense of operatic grandeur that we haven't seen from a sci-fi blockbuster in quite some time. Throughout Part 2, the conflict between the Fremen and the Harkonnens over Arrakis provides the setting, while Paul's transformation from a hesitant youth in the first movie into a potential leader becomes the main focus. Stilgar, the Fremen tribal leader portrayed by Javier Bardem, firmly believes that Paul Atreides is the long-awaited chosen one amongst his people, and despite the horrifying signs Paul has towards himself being a messiah of a holy war, he is immersed in Fremen culture and establishes a relationship with Zendaya's Chani. Paul successfully completes the challenges presented to him by the Fremen, adopts the tribal name Muad'Dib, and swears to seek redemption against the Harkonnens responsible for his father's demise. But engaging in discussions on the distant planet Kaitane, Christopher Walken's Emperor Shaddam IV, his daughter Princess Irulan, played by Florence Pugh, and Charlotte Rampling's Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother plot the ongoing situation. It becomes evident early on that the Emperor intentionally orchestrated the downfall of House Atreides, positioning himself as a target for Paul's revenge. Meanwhile, Princess Irulan assumes the role of a quasi-narrator for Part 2, becoming the audience's comprehension of crucial political developments within the plot. And within the script, Villeneuve and co-writer Jon Spaihts introduce religious fanaticism into the interstellar politics, with Lady Jessica emerging as a significant religious figure among the Fremen, leading her son's advancement in a way that's quite unsettling at times. It's examples like this that show how Villeneuve has doubled down on bringing the important story aspects and thematics of Herbert's story to life, while not being afraid to make a few changes so that his adaptation of Dune is more effective for the cinematic format. Jessica and Paul gain a deeper understanding of the Fremen's history and culture, aiming not only to lead it, but also to dismantle and claim ownership of it. The film essentially challenges the idea of a typical hero's journey by raising doubts about following an outsider's leadership, leaving us to think about more than just the ultimate destiny of the central figure. I think this change in viewpoint when it comes to the Chosen One narrative, something that Herbert tried to stress on with his original novel, is a somewhat breath of fresh air for blockbuster sequels, and it makes Dune distinct alongside the frequent comparisons made to other sci-fi and fantasy epics. The way Paul, Chani and Jessica lead us into those questions of a messiah is exactly what makes Part 2 fascinating over the course of its extended runtime. One of the biggest standout aspects of the film to really show off how well Villeneuve has been able to communicate these ideas within a well-paced script is the driving nature of the central performances. Starting with Paul, Part 2 skillfully navigates his intricate character transformation. Chalamet, one of the most promising prospects in Hollywood for cultivating an authentic 21st century film icon from the ground up, possesses an ambiguous and modest vitality that accurately mirrors Paul's transformation from a privileged prince into a battle-worn revolutionary. Chalamet's remarkable talent lies in convincingly portraying both Paul's captivating, authoritative persona and his introspective yet conflicted teenage nature too. What's truly impressive here is his seamless transition between these two states, and regardless of the mode he does take on, one can sense the burden of the other weighing on his thoughts. As Paul commands the Fremen's aggression, it becomes evident that he experiences the same fear he wishes to instill in his adversaries. His speech, the internal decisions he makes, and the very final moments of the film, yes, showcase a rising sense of command, but they also portray a lost soul or one who has been corrupted by destiny. And again, this is exactly what Herbert wanted to communicate with his original book, but still needed a second to make clearer, signalling to us the problems of his future. The years of bloodshed on the horizon cannot be ignored, and Villeneuve embraced that plot point and made it an arriving fear of his second part. With Dune Part 2 deviating from the conventional hero's journey, consistently challenging the notion of whether being guided by an outsider from a different culture is the correct course of action, there's also the perspective of other characters that makes this narrative even more richer. In particular, Villeneuve elevates the character of Chani, making her the audience's moral way into this particular critique. Zendaya subtly introduces elements into her performance that leave viewers contemplating what a satisfactory resolution would entail for these characters, and she effectively portrays her character with a perfect mix of determination and hidden sensitivity. In my opinion, she successfully navigates a challenging role that could have easily been overshadowed by the chaotic action sequences throughout. And for me, the other standout performance of the film is delivered by Austin Butler's Baron-inspired Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen. He serves as a formidable counterpart to Paul, tasked with putting an end to his attacks and wiping out the Fremen for good. Austin portrays him as a ruthless psychopath, surpassing even his uncle in terms of being bloodthirsty. And the actor relishes every ounce of the character's villainy by weaponizing his rockstar charm into something quite twisting. The infrared or removal of colour during his early scenes in Gady Prime's fighting pits, the many close-ups that show his haunting eyes, and the flicks of his tongue imbue the character with an alien grace that cannot be ignored. He's like a slithering snake that's out of place, yet he's strangely perfect with being both a twisted mirror image of Paul and another project of the Bene Gesserit schemes. Having more scenes with him than there was in the book, and really establishing his threat and connection to this Chosen One narrative, makes the time when we do come to his and Paul's showdown that much more effective. And the same impact can be applied with a lot of the other performers here too, whether it's Bardem's Stilgar, Ferguson's portrayal of Lady Jessica, Pugh's take on Irulan, or Brolin's Gurney. Now, there are changes to some of the characters and events that on the surface you'd think would be story altering in a bad way, greatly shifting the structure of Herbert's book. But these changes, like with the removal of the Spacing Guild, alterations to the Baron's death, the time skip, Aaliyah being unborn and seen in visions, and Paul and Chani not having a kid that dies, does help this version of the story have greater focus, better pacing, and no overstuffing. David Lynch's one-part adaptation skimmed through a lot of big plot points, but even with a two-part adaptation, it's clear that sacrifices still had to be made to avoid jumping around and losing character momentum. On one side, I do think some of these examples could have been covered and done well by the director, but in order for him to make the pacing of the piece work, the intensity of war feel present at all times, and the ending having a focused yet long-lasting impact, these changes did aid that overall process. Specifically, I do think that some of the moments with, say, Furfir Hawa and the horrible circumstance surrounding Paul and Chani's child could have been there to have added impact come that final battle. But I also cannot deny that changing characters like Aaliyah, which removes that 2-year time jump as well, helps to keep a streamlined focus on Paul and Chani. It meant that there was better justification and centrality surrounding the big moments, and Villeneuve further did a brilliant job of maintaining the important presence and weirdness of characters like Aaliyah. The visions of Aaliyah's future self, portrayed by Anya Taylor-Joy in a cameo role, promise a complete portrayal of her character in a Dune Messiah film, and it presents a daring and unconventional reinterpretation of a character that may have appeared somewhat silly, like in previous adaptations. Essentially, certain concepts that were proposed by Herbert are skillfully extracted, while others are toned down, all while maintaining the intense atmosphere and drive of the story. So while I think that some characters and events could have gotten their time to shine on the big screen, and that it all could have been done without changes from the book, Denis did what he did for greater control, pacing, and focus in his adaptation. And again, it ends up on a greater expansion of those final pages, crafting a much more impactful depiction of Dune's ending and a setup for Messiah. Part 2 isn't a battle for Freedom 1 so much as the beginning of something far more cynical, the potential for an entire universe to explode into flames. And the way we get to that horrifying note really influences the effect it had. What adds intrigue to the final moments with this familiar Chosen One narrative is Paul's reluctance to embrace such power, as his prophetic visions reveal the immense death and devastation that his rise will unleash upon the universe. With every influential figure in his life urging him towards his destiny and only Chani serving as a restraining force, Paul gradually begins to recognize the necessity and advantages that come with wielding such power. The culmination in this instance is astutely evaluated, maintaining the successful elements from the written page while intensifying the disconcerting nature of the outcome. The underlying question is not whether Paul wins, it's whether he remains a hero. It's not just the ending though that I think is perfectly crafted in part 2, because one of the other standout elements that I think raises the bar for modern blockbuster filmmaking is the production on this film itself and the way Denis and his team have captured battles and combat sequences. With Paul rapidly establishing a reputation as a skilled Fremen warrior, employing increasingly innovative methods to hinder the Harkonnens' efforts to resume their spice harvesting operations on Arrakis, there needed to be a visceral and visual portrayal of this power on screen. The plethora of guerrilla-style attacks and raids, surprise assaults by Paul, Chani, Stilgar, and the Fremen on colossal spice-harvesting sandcrawlers, and behemoth set-pieces featuring the sandworms meant a need for the action to feel and look as grounded as what had come before. And what we got was some of the best visual images projected on screen in the midst of elevating action. Part 1 was definitely just a tease of what was to come, and the director, VFX supervisor Paul Lambert, and cinematographer Greg Fraser craft sequences of a scale we haven't seen since the previously mentioned epics of the past. It's all well and good flooding the screen with lots of CGI and action, but what Part 2 does is make it feel authentic in the world it's established, makes it look better than most Hollywood productions of a similar budget, and then immerses you by keeping you with these characters in the moment. On top of this, like I mentioned before, the fighting styles and battle sequences help to really create an on-screen language for Dune that we could only really imagine when we read the original book. It seamlessly blends the immense scale of the Harkonnen desert vehicles with the Fremen's brutal, efficient and visually striking hand-to-hand combat. Characters swiftly maneuver between the legs of crawlers while evading Thopters circling above, while their comrades engage in fierce combat using fists, knives and firearms. It's just a remarkable juxtaposition of intimate violence and grandiose proportions, and director Denis Villeneuve masterfully incorporates the action throughout the runtime, even during quite short sequences. Then there's also the score, which helps to guide a lot of this on screen, and Hans Zimmer does a fabulous job of knowing when to orchestrally build it, separate themes, and then combine them when the thematics call for it. All of this top-notch production work reaches a climax when we witness a silent but intense standoff between two central figures. When Paul and Feyd square down, the future of the universe is at stake, and the film makes you feel every moment of that. Someone else who had seen the film had compared this fight to that of the first of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, where every forceful punch in that final Green Goblin fight feels weighty, and the use of no score makes it even more brutal. And while initially I had my questions surrounding that comparison, after seeing the film I can completely see that. It's one hell of a ruthless fight, and every hit drives the scene without there being the need to drown it out using an intense score or overproduced cuts. It's staged in a thrilling way, mirroring and elevating the fight from the end of Dune Part 1. So in my opinion, Denis Villeneuve has crafted a masterpiece of blockbuster cinema for the ages. His adaptation of Dune stands out from many blockbusters of our time and the typical approach to two-part events by avoiding the common pitfalls of feeling like a hollow attempt to stretch profitable material. Unlike other franchise films that have felt like two incomplete halves, Part 1 successfully laid the groundwork for an epic conclusion. Part 2 fulfills this promise by delivering a science fiction masterpiece without any unnecessary filler. It encompasses elements of horror and romance, and although many war scenes captivate with their astonishing grandeur, it's the resolutions to the complex political and moral dilemmas that I think will evoke a profound unease within viewers. Herbert's legacy has been honoured in a new way, and somehow Villeneuve has brought it all together, presenting an awe-inspiring continuation of Paul Atreides' legend. He skillfully relies on the viewer's trust, immersing them in the intricate mythology and creating a sensory assault that effortlessly transforms a vast saga into a mesmerizing epic. While the focuses of Part 2 occasionally sacrifice the development of a few characters and story points, these were sacrifices for the betterment of this particular adaptation. And as a piece of cinematic art, the approaches to transport the audience are unquestionable. But that was my video discussing why I believe Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 is a cinematic masterpiece. Part 2 lives up to the expectations set out by Part 1, surpassing its predecessor and enhancing it in hindsight. Not only does it serve as a satisfying conclusion to Villeneuve's adaptation, but it also stands out as one of the finest blockbusters of the century, instantly becoming a sci-fi classic. Part 2 captures a grandeur on the big screen that is not often seen in modern cinema, and through its sheer spectacle and awe-inspiring accomplishments, Villeneuve has crafted an adaptation of remarkable grandeur and strength. Of course, if the director is able to get a green light for the unusual chaos of Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah, it will be interesting to see the kind of film we get and how the director will aim to top his efforts in Part 2. But to already be gifted two incredible feats of sci-fi cinema, it shows the overall intention behind his entire Dune adaptation. He set out to make the most detailed, grandest, and complex space opera of our time, raising the genre and blockbuster filmmaking to new heights. For me, he's one of the few directors who has really strived for that as of late, and I think that Dune Part 2 is a monumental achievement in large-form cinematic storytelling. I gave the movie a 9.5 out of 10 in my spoiler-free review the other day, and I'm interested to see how the film will compare after many more rewatches in the future. But let me know down below in the comments section what you thought of this latest Dune adaptation, alongside whether you agree with the points I have raised in this video, especially those on the changes that were made from the book. I will be doing loads more breakdowns and video essays on the film in the weeks ahead, so keep a lookout for whenever I post. For much more videos and news on Denis Villeneuve's Dune universe, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.